For starters, I'd like to get a little bit of this is my first time meeting you folks as a group. Caregivers. Okay. And persons with Parkinson's. Bigger. Big. Sorry, I had to. Sorry. So we're a little bit more than maybe 60 or so percent. Fantastic. To start off with what occupational therapy may do in the setting of Parkinson's, it's probably helpful for me to go over occupational therapy in the broad sense, because that basis of philosophy does feed into Parkinson's, stroke, hip replacements, any condition you might happen to be dealing with, or multiple conditions you might happen to be dealing with. The same mindset should, hopefully, be going through the occupational therapist's mind. So has anyone here worked with occupational therapy? Has anyone here heard of occupational therapy? Okay, yes, we are a little bit of the redheaded stepchildren of the therapy world. Everybody knows who physical therapy is, and I don't need a job is an oft-heard remark. So occupational therapy actually started in the Civil War. You guys have heard the saying, someone's a basket case? That's the origination of occupational therapy. When the soldiers were coming back from battle, they had what was in the World War II times called shell shock. Now we call PTSD. They didn't really have a name for it back then. At least I don't know what the name is.
Bring the mic closer.
Is better?
Here.
I'm not sure what the name they called it back in the Civil War was, but we call PTSD, was treated in many situations by giving someone the materials to start making baskets. And so if someone was struggling with mental health, they were a basket case. Because weaving the basket gave something that they required their attention to that wasn't their fear, wasn't their anxiety. So it's using a daily task, using something in life that you're doing. It's not 1, 2, 3, or sit here and repeat this mantra to yourself, which those are all very helpful and powerful, great. But the act of doing something productive can be very helpful and open the door to doing other things more easily. So in general, you could say that occupational therapy is the therapeutic discipline that uses life to support the access to living life. So if you are having a hard time doing one task because your tremor, your memory, your energy level, well, perhaps there's another tangential task that you can train in that's not as hard, that will then bolster your capacity and spills back into brushing your teeth, say. One of the things I tell people when I'm introducing myself to them is that my job as an occupational therapist is to help people be able to do the things they need to do and want to do. Now you might think that's incredibly broad, vague, and yes, it is, because what an occupational therapist can do is incredibly broad and vague. If we are working with someone in the outpatient setting who is having a small set of problems, well, we can target on those challenges they're having and the task that is impacting. That can be in the outpatient, that can be in the community setting, that can be in the home health setting where I currently work, that can be in a skilled nursing facility. What's going to change is the severity of the challenge you're dealing with and the person. Because, we've got 4 people in the front row right here. You each have 4 different lives. If we have in this room 2 people with the exact same level of difficulty, exact same level of challenge with certain symptoms, those 2 people are still living very different lives. And so what's important to one person might be completely different than what's important to another person. So when we change the setting of the person's life, it's not the setting of the occupational therapist. When we change your setting, change your conditions, the occupational therapist a good one hopefully, is going to be considering your factors, considering your setting, considering your needs, wants, desires. Did anyone see the movie Wild Hogs? It's a little bit of an older movie. It's John Travolta.
Motorcycles.
Yeah, motorcycles. Well, William H. Macy is a computer programmer, and this group of middle-aged guys upset a local biker gang and they kidnap him. And as he's being thrown over someone's shoulder, walked away, they say, "Bring us the money or we're gonna break his legs." William H. Macy screams out, "I'm a computer programmer. I don't need my legs. Don't pay them." Then the head biker says, "And then we're gonna break his fingers. Pay the money! Pay the money!" So it wasn't super important for him to be able to walk because his existence was at the computer. What's important to you might be different than what's important to the person next to you. And my job as an occupational therapist is to find out what's important to the person with Parkinson's and the family and the caregiver, because it's all one unit. They all work together when things work as best as possible. Tracking so far? Am I going too fast, too slow? We're good? The next concept is going to be philosophy, and Peter, you already talked about that, so I'm impressed you remembered all of that. Thank you. Philosophy. What is important to you? What is quality of life to you? What is valuable? Are you a computer programmer and you don't really care about walking? Or do you need to get up and go to the bathroom? So walking is pretty important. Imagine that's a significant portion of you. Why is going to drive the what? So, like you said, if someone comes in and says, "Oh, you have this, that, and never, you're at this level, okay, so you're supposed to be doing 10 of these and 2 of those and 5 of these every day." What's the carryover? What's the implementation level going to be like? Likely fairly low, unless someone understands how doing 10 of these and 2 of those facilitates being able to live the life. Me personally, I look at expectancy theory, which is often applied more in an economics or in a business setting. But expectancy theory, you can think of it as an equation. If I do this task, what's it going to cost me? What am I hoping it's going to give for me? What's the payback I'm hoping for? And what's the likelihood I get that payback? So all of us here, I imagine, would probably like a little bit more money. So you could go out and get a lottery ticket. It's going to be a low-cost investment for a high payback. That sounds like a good deal to most people, but what's the expected rate of return? What's the likelihood that buying that one lotto ticket actually converts into winning the big jackpot prize? Infinitesimally small, so I don't play the lottery. Now, if I had to have a large sum of money and that was my only option, then I might choose to play the lottery and cross my fingers. If I had to have a large sum of money in a short period of time, that changes the circumstances of my life. So when it's something like going to the bathroom at night, do you want to be able to do this yourself so your caregiver can sleep the night through, which is important? Or as a caregiver, are you so concerned about this that you want to be there? So we can start talking about Pure Wicks, which are very expensive, as we were just talking about over there, but sleep is incredibly valuable. If you have the means of getting a Pure Wick, that might be worth it to you. As an occupational therapist, it's my job to present ideas, present options, go over the pros and cons of this device, this approach, that approach. And it might be that we get a transfer pole, and that's what makes the job doable. It might be that we have a bedside commode. It Might be that we have a PureWick. The answer that works for you can't come from me. The idea might come from me when I say, hey, there's this tool, there's this approach, and there's this strategy. As we try them out together, I provide the safety, provide the technique, teach you, hey, if you use these body mechanics, it's likely to be more successful. If you do that a little bit bigger, it's going to be more successful. If you do it a bit more thoughtfully and intentionally, perhaps it's more successful. Great. Now we don't have to bring new equipment in. But perhaps that's not working for you at 2 o'clock in the morning. You're not thinking big at 2 a.m. You're thinking pee at 2 o'clock in the morning. So we might use a bedside commode, whereas in the daytime, you can make it to the bathroom, no problem. Another philosophical framework I use is not really named, but I call it the multivariate Venn diagram. You guys are all familiar with Venn diagrams, the overlapping circles? Yeah. If you were to line those up and the only area that was profitable, that was productive, that worked, was where they lined up, that's oftentimes where we find people. They might be plenty smart, they might be plenty strong, but the environment doesn't fit. So perhaps we need to adjust the environment. Or perhaps they're dealing with cognitive issues. They're dealing with dementia. They're dealing with stress, so they're not sleeping well, and they're just not firing on all cylinders. If you have young kids, you know what that's like. So there are some factors we can control, some factors we can influence, and some factors we have no control over. We can't tell the sun to come up and have there be more light. And artificial lighting is great, but it comes with its own problems. So as an occupational therapist, I say, this person or this group of people or this set of caregivers and this unit of people are having a challenge in this area. You know, the person's only 5 foot tall. They can't reach the top shelf to get the towels off, so they have to have a caregiver come do that. It's a simple example. But do we add in a step stool? Well, that's an easy top-of-the-line answer, but now we're dealing with stability. What's their balance like? What's their strength like? What's their vision? So we have to consider multiple factors: cognition, strength, range of motion, coordination, energy level. All of those things have to work, just like a vehicle. If you go to get in your car, nothing happens, you could have the wrong key. You could have a bad ignition. You could have a dead battery. You could have failing spark plugs. There's so many different things all in the system that all have to work. They all have to line up in order for things to flow through them. Some of those things can be changed, like on a car, and some of those things can be improved, like strength, strategy, technique. Sometimes the environment, commodes, transfer poles, bed rails, we can take the task and make them more accessible by putting the equipment in that makes the task a little bit more attainable. We can do therapy for the physical, for the coordination that makes the person more capacious. Because if we have, need 2 hands. If we have the person's capacity here and the task is here, it's either not safe or not doable. So we can either increase the person's capacity or bring the task down to the person. And involved in either of those options, or both of those options, you're going to have a plethora of potential means of doing that. So how does this apply to someone with Parkinson's? That's really a question I would have to ask you, because each of you is having a different experience. Each of you is having a different experience this week than you had a year ago. Because things change, and it's not a linear. We can't predict, oh, we're here today, we've been progressing at this rate, so we can anticipate that in 17 days, no, we can't do that. So you have to address what you're dealing with now as best you're able to, and guesstimate into the future what's going to be important, what's going to be helpful. Do we prepare for that now, or do we deal with that when that comes down the line? I can't answer that for you. Because A, it's neurological, I can't tell you what's going to happen. B, I can't tell you what's important to you, to your wife, to the caregivers, your daughter, your son, the neighbors that are coming in. How available are the paid caregivers that are coming in? Are they flaky and not reliable? Well, we need to make sure that you are more able to do things, and so perhaps it's more worthwhile to invest the limited energy in training this skill set. Maybe it's worthwhile investing the limited amount of funds we have in this tool. So the question that I would come in and ask is, what is the actual goal? What's more important to you? Is it more important to you to get up and walk every time you go to the bathroom because you want to preserve your strength? Great, I'm on board with that. Let's make that happen. Perhaps we need to plan out when you're going to go to the bathroom. Don't wait until Mother Nature calls to go to the bathroom, because you might not have enough time to get to the phone. Perhaps you need to set an alarm, say, you know what, I go to the bathroom about every hour and a half, so I'm going to set it for the alarm for every hour and 15 so I can take my time getting to the bathroom. If instead your answer is, during the daytime I want to use the bathroom, but at night I need to sleep, because if I don't sleep, nothing works well the next day. Okay, that's a different circumstance, a different setting. So maybe we have one set of tools, one set of strategies for the daytime, and a different set of strategies for the nighttime. And then a different third set of strategies when we're going out to a meeting. There's a wedding. We can't just get up and run around in the middle of a wedding. Perhaps we use other incontinence products. There's different options, and which one works best for you is going to be largely up to you, guided by occupational therapy. Everyone here has read the book, The Giver? Perhaps I'm dating myself? Okay. In the book, The Giver, there's an idealistic town where people live and do their jobs living in the now. No one really has any significant memories because the receiver is the town reservoir of memories. He's like the town council, but literally holds memories. The giver, the receiver then becomes the giver when he's transferring off to the next person. He has the ideas, he has the reservoir of what might apply in this circumstance, what might apply in that circumstance. And what I have often found myself being is a central repository of ideas, largely that I got from people like you. I'm not familiar with everything. This is the first time I saw that lotion applicator. And I'm working with a young gentleman who has burns over, I think, about 70% of his body. Scar constrictions, he can't reach his back. So put that in my back pocket. Then the next time I come across someone who can't quite reach their back for whatever reason, I say, hey, did you know that there's a tool that can help apply lotion to your back after you're done scratching it? So each occupational therapist is going to be different, just like each of you is different. Each occupational therapist has a different philosophical background to a degree. Each OT is going to have a different level of experience, exposure, personality, aptitude. And so that's high praise from you and Mary. But there are people who do not agree that I'm their favorite occupational therapist.
Imagine that.
Don't be penned in by the idea that this person is an occupational therapist, therefore they are this. Therefore they can that. It might be that your personality meshes better with this therapist than that therapist. Something as simple as, who here wants me to train them how to shower? Ladies? Ladies? Some women are completely fine with it. Some say, no. And I bring in one of my female occupational therapist colleagues. That's fine. Sometimes I bring in the female occupational therapist and they say, yeah, maybe I'm okay with Robert because I didn't really mesh with this person. Sometimes there's a lot of component of the relationship that we've built up. I would definitely say that's the case with Mary. Mary's a fantastic woman. She took so much challenge, so much difficulty with great poise. Great poise. And I do think a lot of that was because she could trust in you. So it wasn't part of my presentation, but I did want to mention that. Don't be penned in by the therapist, because the therapist doesn't know everything. The fact that you're all coming together as a group, as a community, sharing ideas, that's a huge resource. There have been multiple times where someone says, hey, I was talking to so-and-so, and they suggested I try this. And I said, I've never heard of this. Let's look into it together and see if the qualities you're trying to overcome are going to be met by this approach, tool, strategy. Don't be penned in by a tool that was designed for this. That back scratcher, you can scratch your back with it. Could you brush your hair with it? Yeah, you could. When someone has difficulty reaching, shoulder operation, weakness, there is a tool for cleaning yourself, for holding the toilet paper and wiping. Very few people find it effective. That's the tool that was specifically designed for it. You know what works better than that most times? Hot dog tongs. I'm not joking. The wire, not the ones with the scalloped edge, don't use that, you won't like it. But the wire-framed hot dog tongs you used to be able to get for $1.50, and if you fold the toilet paper a certain right way, you can wipe and drop easy peasy for some people. Some people, that doesn't work at all, and you might need to go to a bidet. Well, we don't have enough resources. We're renting. We can't modify the toilet. They have bidet bottles that can clean you with water. So I'm not prescribing any of these tools to you, but I'm trying to illustrate the concept that the old adage often is true: if there's a will, there's a way. Perhaps that way might not be worth it to you, but perhaps it might be worth it to your neighbor, to your friend. There's a picture I saw, it was a meme making fun of men. Now I'm not going to explain it, whether it's true or not, but people have seen the movie Up, and the cone of shame that you put on a dog if they need to not bite themselves or scratch themselves after a surgery. Well, someone had taken one of those cones with the narrow side of it, put it in the toilet so that it was a giant funnel. The cone of shame became a cone of aim. So most veterinarians are not anticipating their products being turned into urinal funnels. But if that's the resource you have, and it works, let her rip, Chip, let's do it. If you're not sure if it's going to work, get your occupational therapist and say, let's try this out, because it just might work. Said a lot of words. My experience, I'm supposed to chunk and check. Say a little bit, check for understanding. Say a little bit, check for understanding, and redress things. The setting doesn't quite apply to that, doesn't lend itself to that. So, of anything I've talked about, or anything tangential to it, what questions do you have?
You have that other mic, Stuart?
Yeah.
Say again?
Can we take a break?
I think we can take a break. And when nature calls, don't send it to voicemail.
Who has a question?
Peter?
We're asking for a break. Peter. Peter.
Yeah, I heard. You can take a break.
Okay.
How do we get referred to you? Is this covered by insurance? Do you need a doctor's referral, or what? How do we find you?
Well, first you have to say Ollie Ollie Oxen Free, and I'll come out of hiding. To find me specifically, you'd have to be working with Sutter Care at Home. I don't work privately right now because LLCs and corporations and no. To find an occupational therapist, it requires a doctor's order. I can't touch you until I have a doctor's order. I'm an ancillary service. Just like physical therapy, speech therapy, things of that nature. So talk to your primary or whichever doctor is saying, hey, I think you need therapy services. And that would be the same, be it in the outpatient, the community setting. There are community settings where an occupational therapist can advise a group. Like me right here, I don't have a doctor's order to talk to any of you, but I can still advise. But to get actual personal treatment, you would need a doctor's order sent to the therapist, the company, whichever outfit you're going to work with.
Okay, with Kaiser, you can't get an occupational therapist to come to your home.
Was that a statement or a question?
It's a statement.
I believe that's wrong.
Here,
Yes.
we were told they won't.
Kaiser is more restrictive on the services they will provide as compared to Sutter and other companies. Each company is going to handle that differently. Each insurance will cover that differently.
So how do you find an occupational therapist to come to your home that's not with Kaiser? If Kaiser's not going to do it, how do you get someone because you don't have the doctor's referral?
Right, so there are other companies. There's Sutter Care at Home, there's Accent Care. That's the only names I can think of off the top of my head for home health companies in the area. There are a few private therapists, both physical and occupational therapists in the area. There's not a great number of them. I would say get on Yelp, maybe? That's unfortunately not a great depth of knowledge base of mine is how to find the multivariate options. But I do know for a fact that Kaiser has them. Whether or not they authorize and send them out is likely the insurance side of the house, what their rules and regulations are.
Yeah, you may have to push them.
Squeaky wheels get grease.
What I know about Kaiser is that they will often prefer to do a video meeting, and you can show them through your house, and on the video you have to have someone to do the video while you're doing the things, and then they can give it to you that way.
Yeah, we had an OT come through video, and I was a camera person, so I could follow around and show things, and we got good advice, and it seemed to work okay. But you need a good camera person if you're doing a video meeting with an OT.
There are some settings and circumstances in which by video is quite reasonable and quite adequate. Maybe the early stages of Parkinson's, that would be adequate because a lot of that's going to be sharing the ideas, reshaping the philosophical framework of the person. Some people are principle-based thinkers. Some people are rule-based thinkers. In this situation, you do A, B, C, D, and that's what I've done my entire life, so that's what I'm going to do. Sometimes my job is to say, yeah, that's how you did it, but it's not working anymore, so here's another option. In some situations, I think that would be quite adequate, especially once we're dealing with balance issues, and that would make me a little nervous.
Well, this would be just a suggestion. I know for Gary, whenever he's been in the hospital for a certain situation, OT will come out after you've been to the hospital. So you can kind of keep that in the back of your mind to ask for that if they end up being in the hospital.
Some doctors might not even think to order that. So prompting the doctor, hey, is this a circumstance where OT might be helpful? Is a completely reasonable idea.
Don't go to the hospital just to get
No.
OT.
There's a question back here. It's a good thing to not need me.
I think there's a very good possibility that Medicare can fund things that the primary insurance will not. If you have Medicare, often, if say Kaiser says they can't cover something, find out if Medicare will substitute the funding if the doctor makes a referral. So I have a feeling that happened for my brother. Kaiser couldn't do something, but Medicare would fund a home visit. So I think that's worth pursuing.
Agreed. The predominance of people I work with either are Medicare or Medi-Cal.
Other questions? Coming your way.
Just a quick addendum to what we're talking about with Medicare versus the insurance. I have a long-term care policy, which I didn't think I needed to put into use. But the long-term care advisor called me and said, were you aware that we can do this for you? We can do this for you. So I was not aware that they could come out for a short term to get something set up for long term. So that's another option if you have long-term care, not to just consider it for nursing home reimbursement.
Yep. The worst they can do is tell you no. Ask.
Any more questions? We have time for 2 more.
Thank you. Excuse me, the woman who just spoke, when you say long-term care, do you mean long-term home care? Or is it different, long-term care? What does that mean?
I'm fortunate enough, having been a Fed, to be able to buy into a long-term care insurance policy. And that covers some home care and it covers some facility care. But it would depend on what your individual policy covered.
Any more questions? I have time for 1 more.
So we got one up here. And then I'll actually have one more remark. Peter, are you okay with me sharing some of the details of our care?
Sure.
Okay.
Do you have any pearls or gadgets or things that you found that are particularly useful that you say this might work for you? Can you show any pictures or tell us about any new little things? My goal in coming today was to see if you could add to my list of things that I've already done. You know, I've got night lights that go on everywhere. I've got grab bars in my grab bars, and you know, I've done a gazillion things that I could think of personally, but I was trying to think of maybe you had something that you said, wow, like you've never seen that back scratcher or the lotion applier. Do you have any little doodads that you could recommend that might be useful for some of us?
I could go down a list of the compendium of devices I'm aware of that have been helpful for some people in some circumstances. For me to just pick out, oh, this one works for most people in most situations, it would be difficult for me to say that because of the variance in that. I'd be happy to hang out and chat for a couple of minutes, and maybe you tell me a bit more about your circumstance. Unfortunately, I can't do that with every single one here. But now we get back into philosophy. So my personal belief, which doesn't have to be any of your belief, is that if we can redress a limitation by increasing the person's capacity, making someone stronger, giving them more stamina, making them more efficient with the energy they are using throughout the day, so that at the time of day where things really show up, they've got a little more gas in the tank, that would be my preference. So me personally as a therapist, I don't jump to tools. Tools are great. Sometimes they can be, forgive the pun, a crutch. Because once you have the lotion applicator, now the drive, the impetus, the motivation to keep stretching and keep the flexibility going goes down because I got the tool. I don't need to be as flexible as I used to be. So there's a lot of philosophy that goes into that and personal circumstance, personal choice. So I apologize, I can't give you a specific broad-based answer.
So I participate in Parkinson's Voice Project to keep my speech together.
Great.
So if I were to use that amplifier, would that like nullify my efforts or work against my long-term goals of keeping my voice?
Maybe, which is not the answer you were looking for. Would it decrease the frequency with which you had to focus on projecting? Yes. Is that necessary? That's up to you. That's up to your state now. Perhaps when you're at home, and guessing your husband here, maybe Gene can hear you well enough when you don't use an amplifier when you project. But when you don't project, what? Well, maybe that's the setting in which you practice. But if you go out to the niece's wedding, you don't want everyone to be saying what all the time. And you don't want to feel like you have to yell and scream and over-project for 3 hours. It's going to wear you out. So maybe you bring it and pull it out if you're feeling like you need to. And then it's a support. But there are no solutions, there are only trade-offs. Because you get to use less energy, less effort when you're using it. But if that becomes the standard mode, now you're not as strong vocally. You're not as practiced at enunciating and projecting.
I thought it might be helpful when I make phone calls.
Very possible. Yeah. So one of the thoughts that I had regarding our care with Mary, and I don't know if you'll remember this, but there was a time where I said, stop. Don't do this. We don't need to transfer her. We don't need her to brush her teeth. She wanted to brush her teeth because she thought she was supposed to. There was such a look of relief on her face when I said, why? Because why drives what? We were talking about built-up handles. We were talking about weighted handles, angled utensils. There's all kinds of tricks. If she really wanted to brush her teeth, I was going to be right there with her. We were going to move heaven and earth to get her to brush her teeth. But I asked her, why? And I said to one of the gals at the facility, are you able to brush her teeth? Yeah. Are you okay with that? Yeah? Then why? One of the things I want you guys to leave here with is you don't have to do it the way it's been done, even if you're the one who's been doing it the way it's been done. There might come a time where the cost, the effort required to do the task is more than it's worth to you. I would love to go get me a nice hot rod, real fast zoomer. I got 3 kids. I don't have that kind of frivolous money. Someone who's becoming more and more tired and every task is becoming more and more effortful, it might not be worth walking down the hall when the caregiver can push you in a wheelchair. But that might be the exercise you're using, walking down the hall, so that you can keep doing it tomorrow. If you take the short answer, the quick answer today, you're deducting from your returns tomorrow. Each bit of activity is an investment that you hope pays dividends. So think about the why before you get to what, and don't be locked into the way it's done. Fair enough?
Robert, thank you so much.